All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone. I am JL, Professor TieDye, co-host of the Dangerous Rhetoric podcast, here with OfficialAaronEP. Otherwise, that's his handle on X, but I know him as Aaron Philpot. He's been a mutual of mine for a little over a year now on Twitter, and I thought he'd be an interesting conversation to have that while we both have grown up in Christian households. Aaron has taken a little bit more of a different path through parenting and raising a kid, and I thought it'd be a good conversation to introduce him to the audience and have him tell his story and what he's gone through, then what has interest him to engage on social media, being the horrific minefield that it is. So I'll hand it over to Aaron to kind of do an introduction.
Hey, well, thanks for having me on. First of all, really honored. So I originally got rid of my Facebook and all that stuff in 2019 during the whole COVID thing. So I'd gotten off social media actually for quite a while. And I guess the biggest thing for me getting back on social media was kind of just be feeling out of the loop, being uninformed. So I would be like driving down the road and with a coworker or something, we do tree work. So it'd be, coworkers sitting next to me and talking about current events, and I'd be completely oblivious. So I really didn't hear a whole lot about what was going on in the world. And so I felt kind of like out of place. I'm like, well, maybe I should be a little bit more aware as a father, as you had mentioned. So I was like, yeah, maybe I should be just slightly more informed than I am now. And I originally got on Twitter just to kind of follow people like yourself and some others who will post not necessarily hot takes, but more so just like retweeting news stories or just like what have you is about, current events. And so originally that was my plan. And then when I ran into you and a couple others, I ended up getting sucked into the world of conservative, like homocon / whatever, updates. And so I was like, got into Tough Talk with Ty and whatnot, so I started watching him, and originally I started on, I think one of the guys that popped across my feed first was Preston Para, and quickly blocked him, but for a few minutes though was watching his takes and things like that, and really respected the fact that a younger guy was getting involved in politics. And I'm 32, so I'm verging onto the not so younger side, and felt like, hey, these young guys are stepping up and being involved, and they're being active, and they're kind of trying to change the culture. So I think I should too. And having a kid, I obviously owe it to him at least to know what's going on and protect him against, whatever, I'm the buffer zone against him and culture. So I feel like that's a parent's job, right? So that was kind of my motivation. I also, like I said, I cut trees down for a living and trim and whatnot. So those things, they kind of go dead and kind of null and void in the winter time. So it was also like the winter time, and I was like, man, there's 6 inches of snow on the ground. I'm not doing crap for the next week. What am I going to do? I'm going to get on Twitter and piss a bunch of people off. That's what I'm going to do. So that's kind of why I got on there. So
yeah, I mean, we have a few of the same mutual crossovers, but I don't think you have the enemy list that I do amongst the homocons, because actually I think a prior interview we kind of joked about how that despite the Brentley, the host of Dangerous Rhetoric, and I just kind of, it's funny, they said you've gone full homophobic in the last few months, and I'm like, well, honestly, the people who know me know where it's coming from, and it's coming from a point of I'm just sick of homocon bullshit, and it's not directed at them, so I'm like, so the ones that stick around are the real friends.
It's also the grifters and the people who are just doing this for the money, and they don't actually have any honest intent in making positive change. They're just trying to cash a check. And I can respect doing something to cash a check. Don't get me wrong. But what you do has to be, in my opinion, and this is just where I come from in life, is I was always raised, what you do typically with your hands in our family, tree work, mechanical work, roofing, siding, whatever. Typically, when you do something with your hands, it's more honest. It's more, hey, I'm providing a thing that you need and you want. You're paying for it, and I'm using that as a way to carve, my path through life. And I feel like the grifting is the exact opposite. It's like a coercion, a manipulation of playing on fear. It's playing on, anxieties about the world around you or whatnot. And it's kind of like preying on your weaknesses as a person to then buy this false narrative I'm selling. And I'm just selling it because the highest bidder said to. Yeah. And that kind of thing to me that's kind of really irritating. Like I said, and I don't actually know Preston, personally or anything, but he was one of the first ones where I kind of felt like I was getting that vibe. So I just went ahead and blocked. And I'm not saying he does that. I don't want to make any claims. I want to stay relatively neutral on that. But I will say that I thought I saw that. So I went ahead and blocked out of security reasons. That's just like, you know what? I don't want to be anywhere near this. Yeah. And there's a couple others I have blocked that I feel we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few of the, speaking of the homocons, that it basically has come out now that they were being paid to be shills for stuff, and then that money got pulled, and so then they put out a link to help pay for things like their Tesla payment and stuff because they can't. Or they can't pass the bar
positions because now they're no longer getting paid, right? So now they can be honest. They're no longer on the payroll, so they can just tell the truth. And you'll watch them, you'll go back, let's just go 6 months, 7 months ago, and you'll watch them, and they're still on the payroll. There's still campaign funds to pay them, so they're still pushing the narrative on either side. And then you'll see them flip on the position that they once held, and defend it so vehemently. And then now they're on the total opposite side of it. Hold on. There's
a Clarkson fella that I can think of that was like that. That I never really put much stock in, but all of a sudden is taking these. that has suddenly taken these very strong, almost anti-Trump stances. That's okay, you kind of have the standard gay talking points. You don't have the conservative talking points, and it's did the paychecks quit going through?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of an interesting marketplace that way.
I respect that. I respect him for, or people like him, I should say, for saying, "Hey, I was paid to produce this stuff, and I did. As a content producer, I did. And then now that it's over and I'm no longer being paid, here's my honest opinion. I am not for." And so, you can do that once, though. If you do that twice, you weren't being honest the second time. So I can see and somewhat respect that honesty in that moment, saying, hey, I may lose a quarter of my followers. I may tank my social media career, if you will.
Yeah.
I can respect that more than I can respect the people who still shill and lie about what they said 3 months ago that I have screenshots of. You're not fooling anyone but the people who are, I guess, dumb enough to follow you. And that's fine. That I come at social media from a be a peacemaker mindset. I don't actually want to negatively engage with too many people at all, period, in my life. I nonetheless reach a point where when people see my name, they hear or think of controversy. Yeah. I would love to be the guy who people from all sides come to, kind of like Charlie. And I stopped following Charlie Kirk for a while, and God rest his soul. I did, because I disagree with him on quite a few things. I was like, I don't want to see this. So I just got rid of it, because it's an unfollow. Get over it. He's still making millions. It's not that big a deal. But I didn't block him. I just unfollowed. And I still saw his stuff when you or anyone else would comment on it. It would pop up. But it was he built his organization around open dialogue and open communication and being that peacemaker mentality as well, and being able to say, hey, I'm on this side, you're on this. Let's meet. Let's talk about this. Let's find out why you believe what you believe. And obviously, since they were his events, he got the final say. He got the final word, and that's fine. You may see it as unfair on some sides of it. Sure, whatever. I don't care. But ultimately, his whole goal was to open up dialogue to change hearts instead of minds only. And that was rare. And they freaking shot him over it. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to come at that same mentality, because you don't get shot because your ideas are wrong. You get shot because they're effective or they're correct, and you need to be silenced. Because if I think you're wrong about something, man, I'm going to argue with you. Right. Yeah. And you and I have been on the opposite side of some things. And it's well, let's talk about this,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're hitting on something that's really important because, like, I honestly have tried to take that neutral stance for a long time. Like I said, like, I have a few friends who are like, why are you talking to those gay guys? You know, whatever. I'm like, no, but they have like,
you've mentioned that before. Yeah,
we have like political alignments kind of thing. We don't align on all this stuff. We can come together, but then, you know, I kind of found out that there's just some people you can't make peace with, and you have people who are going to follow them no matter what is said, kind of thing. And it's one of those things, like, you know, I always kind of like that because, like, my friends jokingly say that I'm a radical alt-centrist, that I try to find the most reasonable middle ground, you know, to have something in common with people. But yeah, I mean, these like, especially over the summer here, just been like, I just got to be an asshole to some people. I have no choice but to be just a flat out asshole to these people because like I can't make peace with them, and they're just gonna keep going, and it just sucks because, like, I'm like, I bear no ill will to you, but you keep saying shit about me. So if it comes across my feed, I might as well say something. So I understand what you're saying, because, like, that's really what I would love to do, is just be like an open platform, like, you know, talk. Like, I have two interviews prior to this that are completely different camps, but I'm able to interact with both of them, and I think that's an important thing to do. Right. But you're just going to come across somebody online who just hates you. And I kind of make the joke about Nick Rekieta, that he made a statement that once you get to a certain size online, you get your own ADA assigned retard to basically pester you. And I just kind of feel like, okay, well, I've reached that point. I've got an ADA assigned retard and his little pack of followers that, you know, that are just going to be that little gnat in the room for me, and there's really nothing I can do about it. And, you know, so like, that's just like, I really am where you are with that, of just being able to be like, hey,
I wonder who mine's going to end up being.
What? I don't know. I mean,
I wonder who mine's going to be. It's going to be one of my friends watching and be like, hey, you're that guy's retard now.
Well, no, it's kind of true. It's like, once you get to a certain point, all of a sudden you get this one person that just like hates you, and like I talked about before, like, tries to A-log you. It's just like, dude, no, you're dumb. But then you have people who want to believe that person, and it's just like, well, it's the internet. There's nothing I can do about it. But no, I mean, that's what, like, you and I really do agree, is that, like, dude, can't we just come together and not just kind of ignore this stuff? But it's like, I don't know, people just get divisive, and it's just so annoying.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a boring interview for some people because we agree on a lot. So there's not really going to be a whole lot of debate, spirited debate between us, because we do agree on a lot. Christ is first and foremost in my life, and I know he is in yours as well. And that's a big deal to both of us. So I think even if we could disagree on a lot of the political issues, so let's say you don't like Bill A and I like it, and you don't like Bill, or you like Bill B and I don't, but, you know, we've got, you know, so many adverse interactions that kind of gets frustrating. There's always that commonality of, well, hold on a second, you believe all life is precious because you're a Christian, and so do I. And we can always say, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Despite all of these political disagreements, or, you know, whatever differences, we can still come to some kind of common ground. And I do respect the heck out of you for that. And I know that that's kind of like, especially because you and I've gone back and forth in some like spaces and stuff too, where we've been on the opposite end of things, or you'll remind me of, hey, well, you remember we tried that once and it ended up like this, because you've got a little bit more years under your belt, kind of a thing, you know? So you come at me with some age-old wisdom. It was a polite way of saying it. But no, I mean, it was just, you know, there's been some things I'm like, oh, crap, you know, I am kind of new to the political world, and seeing you touch on some things that we had tried before in the past, or in a Reagan administration or whatever, and then realize, oh, crap, this stuff doesn't work, or it got flipped the wrong way, or what have you. Maybe my solution wasn't, you know, the best one. And, you know, being able to have that open dialogue, though, where we can point out the failures in each other's ideas, is how we implement the change, though, because then that's how we're going to vote. That's how and I'll stop there and put an asterisk next to that and say that I'm not sure we're going to be able to vote our way out of where we are at now. I think we might be and this might be an opinion you and I differ on, but I believe as a nation, we are on a precipice of either too far gone, or we can still salvage this thing. And there's a lot of uneasiness in conservative circles, especially right now, with that very question.
Yeah.
Like how close are we to the point where it's, hey, you're spying on American citizens, and now the bills that just went through on the day that Charlie was assassinated, and they just redacted portions of it, but there's a bill that says now defense contractors will no longer be given defense bills and given those contracts, rather, if they're criticizing Israel to a political side, one or the other. It doesn't like, so it is kind of just an open, it's a very ambiguously worded statement.
Yeah.
And there was, up until they just removed it, I want to say 2 days ago, yesterday maybe is when it got confirmed, but removed from the bill that they could deny passports or revoke passports based on a U.S. citizen critiquing Israel to one political side or the other again. And that got removed. That has been taken out of that bill. But what world do we live in? What country do we live in that critiquing another country, tens of thousands of miles away, is grounds for the termination of your passport? Who would even think to put that in the bill? And I think oftentimes we overlook little things like that because of these tragedies going on. And I'm not saying what happened to Charlie Kirk was a distraction by any means, but I am saying that maybe they capitalized on that distraction to then say, hey, let's pass some really controversial crap real quick. Yeah. I could see that happening from either side. And I'm not picking sides on that. I just see those patterns and say, hey, this is a common theme. Every time there's a school shooting, every time there's a whatever, I don't know I don't know if that's the direction you want to go with your interview. I apologize.
No, this is kind of free form. It's kind of getting people having people see you, hear your ideas. Because the anti-BDS bills have been a very hot topic. And when you're talking about that, I was just thinking about the really dumb, comments that Pam Bondi made about hate speech. And then she spent every day, every day that, she just, she's like trying to walk it back, but then not walk it back at the same time. And I was listening to a podcast person this morning, and I said in his chat that Pam Bondi is the MILF hill that boomers are going to die on because they're just because they want it she's
the reason why they eat at Hooters. The food's not even that good, but
no, it's not. It's like when I was in my 20s, we went to Hooters because it was Hooters, not because the wings were.
Yeah, we went there to get scallops and get sick off of them, but we went there for a specific reason that wasn't the scallops.
Yeah, and it's just like one of those things too, how she made that statement. It's like this is something that a Kamala AG would almost say, is that their speech. Honestly,
some of these double speak moments that you hear from them on the right lately has very much so reminded me of when Kamala would give these little town halls. Mm-hmm. And she would interrupt herself with laughter, right? She would interrupt herself with jokes or cackles or giggles or whatever they called her.
I remember that she said the meme. She says something stupid and then inappropriate laughter, and then shows her walking away.
Yeah, that's literally her entire speech platform. That's how she platformed all of her speeches. But the way she does that, the right uses this false righteous indignation right now.
Yeah.
So they'll have, and I listened to, I don't know if you listened to it today, was the Kash Patel being interviewed by the subcommittees or whatever, the committees.
I listened to clips of it. I haven't listened to all of it.
So I listened to 2 hours of that stinking thing. And the left did this where they flew off the handle and they whatever, and Jasmine Crockett is, I'm sorry, that woman has no place talking to children, nonetheless, the entirety of the nation on behalf of civilians. She should represent not but a single gnat in office, and that should be her only constituent. She is so dumb. And I'm sorry, that was just I'd never heard her speak that long before.
Really?
She had 5 minutes. And 4.5 of them, I thought about loading the gun and pulling the trigger. I was so being dramatic, but at the same time, no, it really was horrible. And every time she opens her mouth, it's just, and this whole like false righteous indignation on her end about being this like, oh, I'm black and I'm a woman, so you're going to shut up and listen. Like, calm down, hun. No one's trying to silence you. We are trying to get you to speak a coherent sentence twice in a row. That's it. That's all we want. And
she's kind of like is it the Tennessee Five, where like one of them, the guy with the big afro, and he speaks with a black preacher voice. And
what's his name? God,
I think, but you know who I'm talking about. I forget too, but
it's not Green, is it?
No, it's a state senator from.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay,
but like they were all kicked out of because they did like this Black Power protest, and like they're kicked out. But there's a thing where like he's at Princeton and he's like talking with just like a perfect like posh accent. And there's a video like that of Crockett too, and this is why like I almost go to.
They're faking it. They're actors. Yeah, this is political theater.
Yeah, it's like I don't think Crockett is as ignorant. I think she's dumb, but I don't think she's as ignorant as she makes herself sound. That she sounds way more
capable of better than she's doing.
Yeah, well, no, she is, but I think it's kind of one of those things that like. By lowering the expectations kind of thing of like seeming like she's ignorant, but she's not dumb.
She can over deliver on the expectations because she's lowered them so low. Yeah. You're kind of setting up your own false standard at that point. Okay, cool.
Yeah. The reason I say that is like I have a friend that says that I act dumber than I am online because that way people underestimate how smart I am kind of thing. And it's, some of my shit posts. And
I get your memes.
Well, like a lot of times when I post something, it's kind of a different reason than what it's saying, and a few people get it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think she has this like ignorant black woman persona she puts forward, but she's not a dumb person. She's a lawyer. She's got all that done, but she knows that by doing that, you can't question that because you're questioning a powerful black woman, and she can get a lot of sleaze in there.
And I could see that being the case. I could also see a lot of, and I won't say this about her because I actually don't know her. She might be awesome. She might just put on this air for her constituency and well, then she'd be a liar. So no, she's not awesome either way. But she's either honestly horrible or she's a terrible, terrible person while being a really good liar. So I don't know. But I guess I'll keep that to myself. I just think there's better we can do. We can do better. That's totally. Come on, Texas. Come on. Like George Strait singing songs about Texas right now that are still ringing in our heads, 30 or 40 years after they were recorded and released. You can do better, Texas.
Well, it's like
Ted Cruz right? Ted Cruz is from Texas, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm correct. And then you got Crockett. Like, you're going to give me those two? You're going to give me a fat Zionist with a loud mouth? And then some dumb... Never mind, it's fine.
Well, it's kind of like AOC. It's like, I think AOC is legitimately a dumb person, but she's not ignorant. And the reason I say that is that when she speaks to different audiences, she does like that. She changes like that, like Puerto Rican, sassy Latina accent. But then otherwise, she's just kind of just like a screeching Bronx girl. And it's
I don't know.
She kind of does that like that skin walking shape shifting thing, but while Jasmine Crockett just kind of does the ghetto black woman 24/7.
If you have you ever seen videos of Hillary Clinton speaking at different like DNC meetings or campaign meetings or whatever, or events, even for her husband back in the day?
I have hot sauce in my purse.
And you're like, one. I don't know if the word you're using for hot sauce is what we would call hot sauce. It's probably some adrenochrome crap. But if it's not, let's just assume she's an honest person. She's honestly dishonest, and she changes her voice more times than any skit by what's it, Robin Williams or whatever. You know what I mean? She's like, I think she has probably tried more accents than anybody else. And even Kamala was known for that. And I do understand, because preachers will do this too. From a Christian to a Christian perspective here, preachers will do this too. Preachers will like try to pander to a more Southern audience by talking about how they were growing vegetables with their mom when they were young, and their mom came up and said some weird word of wisdom, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, so they'll try to connect with their audience that way. And public speaking is an art. And I've delivered my fair share of sermons. And before those who are like hardcore Christians and against the gay community watch this and crucify me, know that I was actively struggling against my same-sex attraction, not living in it when I was delivering these sermons. And there were moments where if I felt like I was struggling too hard, I did tell my pastor to take me off the roster, and gave myself a reprieve, because I wanted to like kind of pull away, what do you call it, a sabbatical, kind of pull back. And I took myself off the worship team quite a few times, because I didn't feel like I was living right, and I didn't have any place telling you how great God was if I wasn't even going to be listening to him. And so I took myself off. And I've changed the message, or at least the style of the presentation of the message, based on the demographic I was talking to as well. One thing that never changed was my accent, first of all, and then second of all, like the facts of the message I was giving, right?
Yeah.
So the facts were, if David slayed Goliath, whatever, right? If that was the story, then I gave those facts, whether or not I presented it as in like, Michael Jordan having the flu and going up and scoring like 80 points in the game or whatever, and I'm not a sports guy, so don't crucify me if I got that wrong. But I didn't necessarily.
I made a joke. Some of my buds are doing a fantasy football thing, and I start saying, "Is that where like you have the beaters need to hit the quaffle away from the person? Oh, no, they need to hit they need the quaffle through one of the 3 hoops." And I start quoting Quidditch, and they're like, "Just shut up." So
yeah,
I don't really know sports either.
I'm not a sports guy. Yeah. So no, and I just so I would change like maybe the delivery mechanism for the message, but not necessarily the message itself. But never my accent. And I can't fathom sitting down in front of a bunch of Southern voters and trying to win their vote and being like, well, the other day when I was out there on that farm and I was, what are you doing? Really, what are you doing? And then did you see the Clinton campaign buttons with the rebel flag on them from '93 when I was born?
I never saw those.
So somebody online was like, hey, I have a collection of campaign buttons to every single presidential rally or campaign election, whatever, blah, 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 that I've ever been on from both sides. And they presented the Clinton campaign buttons, and it was like Clinton 1993 or whatever, 1992 or whatever he was, but it was a rebel flag pin. And I thought that was awesome, because it's like heritage, not hate. The right's been saying that for quite a while. Like, hey, or the South rather has been saying that for quite a while. Like, it has nothing to do with hate. It has everything to do with heritage. And everybody's, on the other sides of the country, California, New York, probably more so, but everybody's freaking out about it and saying like, oh, the rebel flag means hate. Well, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like both sides have used it to pander too. And that pandering irritates the crap out of me.
Well, see, that's what's so funny about that is that how the Democratic president Grover Cleveland, I think it's Grover Cleveland, he returned the Confederate battle standards to the Confederate states to try to get like their support and votes. And so it was a Democrat president who basically turned all like the confiscated Confederate battle standards. And it's like one of those things like people like, no, the parties didn't switch sides. The Democrats are just better at their like pandering for votes.
Yeah.
And they changed their tactics. That's all it's been. But I want to kind of want to, because one thing I want to talk to you about is like circle out like back to what you mentioned there with your faith journey. Because this honestly is like one way which I personally have like kept in contact with you, maintain a friendship, because like I went through like some horrific stuff at my Pentecostal church. I went to Bible college, people just nasty to me. And like the students that supported me were like the closeted gay students. And so that's why I always found it easy to be friends with gay people.
Right.
Because like at my lowest point, they really supported me. And I always thought that was very interesting about you, about how like, going from your religious background, having your child and now raising your kid, and just the struggles that you go through with that, if you want to go more into that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know, he goes by Peter. He had the book, The Boy Who Walked Himself Home. He just released it a little bit ago. I've
Yes.
got a copy of it. I actually haven't started reading it yet, and I have to apologize to him because I haven't found the motivation to sit down and read anything in a while. So,
Yeah,
but he's a
I haven't got his book yet. It's on my list. I just bought Chad Manley's book. That
okay, right on.
I'm finishing that one first.
Okay, yeah. So maybe I'll read Peter's, and we can I'll send you that when you send me this one.
I can do that. I'll send you another hate letter.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was awesome. Okay, so yeah, so the reason I mentioned him is because I had actually started writing like a memoir, if you will, like a self, autobiography, I guess would be the proper word for it, and kind of just an explanation of where I came from and where I'm at now. But I was kind of waiting until I got a little bit older because I wanted to experience more life, and I had a kid, and so I wanted to have more content for it, and I didn't want to do a part two. Like, oh wait, he didn't die at the end of this book. There's more. Like, so maybe we'll do a part two and a part three if I live long enough. I'm a tree guy. I probably won't, but either way. So when I was 12 years old, I started experimenting with guys, and so that's kind of kicked off my like. People say you have this like gay awakening where you realize, oh crap, I'm different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that it felt like that for me until I hit probably 15, 16.
Okay.
And I always felt ostracized from both sides because I went to a Pentecostal school attached to a Pentecostal church where we went quite regularly. And my family was raised, my dad's side was Holiness Pentecostal. So no men, you didn't wear watches, or what you wore watches and rings. That was it. No necklaces, no earrings, none of that stuff. And I have my earrings out right now, but my ears are pierced, and I do wear them regularly. I wear bracelets and whatnots, and God forbid I'm going to hell for that.
I was gonna say, when I left my Bible college, the first thing I did was go to 0 gauges in my ears. So just like, screw you, man. Like just kind of fuck the system. But like part of it for me was I always felt a little different. Like when it came to guys, like I experimented a couple times when I was like 12, 13, 14, and then I kind of died out for a while. And when I was like 15, 16, I dated a couple girls, and I still, to be fair, I wouldn't say I'm part of the G in the LGBT, or LGB rather, because the TQIA stuff is all different. That's all separate. I don't consider myself a part of either community, to be fair, because I don't hang around a bunch of them. I don't like most of them. I have a hard time getting along with any of them because I'll tell them like, hey, we're all living in sin. Like, I'm just going to tell you that right now. I believe it. The Bible says it, so I believe it, and that settles it, period. But I can't stand in the shoes I'm in and also lie to myself and the people around me. So it's like it's very much so a battle for me, and especially growing up in that kind of really harsh environment where the preachers would be slapping the pulpit, as they're preaching. A little podium, for those of you who don't speak church, it's the little podium that stands in front of the preacher where they holds their Bible and their notes and their water or their whatever, and the preacher would be smacking it so hard that his ring would leave indents. You're going to hell. And I say, gasping for breath because he can't even utter his next word without, breathing in enough to scream at the top of his lungs. Yeah.
To be fair, that man, Brother Asher, did also preach one of the best revival series I've ever heard. So as much as I hated it, it also made me kind of tough, like thick skinned, right? Because I was told that to my very core, I was wretched from a very young age. So I think maybe I'm a bit numb to hearing how horrible I am because I tell myself every day, because I feel that way, because I acknowledge that that's what sin is.
Yeah.
So for me to say I'm any worse off because I'm attracted to men and you're better than me because you're in a heterosexual relationship, which congratulations on recent events in your life.
Yes, thank you. The audience doesn't know that I had the third kid. Just
yeah.
Actually,
I'm a little jealous because I got baby fever about 9 months ago, and I was like, damn it, guys can't get pregnant. I need to find me a fling, but I was like, I can't do that. So I did. And it was right around the time where you were like, "Hey, this is happening." Like, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Man, everybody's having babies but me." And I was like, because I did want to always be a father, and so like I knew I was never going to settle in the gay lifestyle, right? I kind of knew I was going to toe that line and be struggling with it for a while. And I'd be like 15, 16 years old, thinking to myself, like, how am I going to make decisions that are going to be the best for my faith? And I have to kill this side of me. And I prayed and I asked God, I begged God, I fasted, I did everything. And I don't want to make it seem like God failed me, because that's not what I'm saying. But I will say that
your audio cut out. You're becoming a boomer. It's okay.
That can be your intro footage. Okay, so if you want to clip all that out and start here, I guess I'll start talking about that preacher again. So when I start talking about that preacher, you can clip that and then just do this right here.
Okay.
So I being yelled at by these Pentecostal preachers growing up, I kind of gotten this like really thick skin to where insults didn't inherently bother me. I also come from kind of a rougher family, and so like we're in the Midwest. I'm from Ohio, so it was very much so like just down home, hard work kind of family. And so when you're stressed out, you're hot, you're sweaty, you're nasty, and the guy next to you is being lazy, you say, "Hey, come on, man, you're being lazy, piece of crap, like pick it up." Like that, I got told that a lot growing up and whatnot. So by that time I'm like, well, you called me a piece of crap, how dare you, clutching my pearls. No, there was none of that. It was very much so like, get over it and move on. And so that's how I kind of felt about like when people gave me some hard love. So I didn't hate like the Pentecostal church in and of itself. It actually taught me to be in touch with my emotional side and to be okay celebrating, my faith and things like that, because they're very outspoken. And where they may fail in some areas, they are also succeeding in others, just like any congregation. And I feel that way about Catholicism. I feel that way about any denomination underneath the Christian umbrella. They do have their pieces that are like fantastic. And what I've learned over the years is to pick out those things that are awesome, that I love, or sometimes are hard to hear though. Doesn't mean I'm like only picking the things I like. It does also apply to the things that like are hard truths that are still biblically sound. And like you'll have people who are obese preaching about homosexuality being a sin. And I have a really hard time not standing up in the middle of their sermons going, "Okay, sure, I'm a sinner, but aren't you too? Because look at you, you're living in slothfulness." Like, you can't tell me I'm wrong with every fiber of your being, that every fiber of my being is wrong, and I'm some this despicable person. But then also be that in a different area yourself. And so that was a really hard thing to come to terms with, like growing up. Like, hey, I have failures. Everybody has failures. How do I come to terms with this failure that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life? And eventually I came to a place where, and this is after I'd gotten my biblical history degree, a bachelor's degree in that, and had been on the youth staff, helped plant a church, had been on the youth worship leader for a while, and then for a couple years, and then the main worship team, like being a team member there for a couple years. So I was very involved. I spent about 25 hours at the church, volunteered completely. That was no paid position by any means. I wouldn't take their money anyway. It was my pleasure to serve. But for a better part of 10 years, and so I spent a lot of time with these people, and a lot of them looked at me and said, "Hey, I know what you struggle with, and I love you." And like that kind of showed me up, because I walked away from the church when I first got married. I got married in 2014 to a woman. My son was born in 2015, and I had stepped away while I was dating this woman. And before I was dating this woman, like 6 to 7 months before, I had written my pastors a note and been like, "Hey, I can't struggle with this and go to your church. I'm sorry. I love you. I can't do this. Like, this is too much conflicting. It's too much conflicting emotions. It's too many rather conflicting emotions. It's too much conflicting information going on at the same place in my own head, And so I had written them an email, and said, I love you guys. You guys are like second parents to me, but you probably won't see me again.
Yeah.
And I was dating this guy for a while. I dated him for like 2 weeks, and he was a piece of crap. So that ended. And I ended up meeting my ex-wife a couple weeks later after I'd had some time alone. And I had met her at a restaurant. She was a hostess. And she was 2 days away from turning 18, and I was already like almost 20. So I was like, oh, definitely not going out with you before you turn 18, right? So I told her, I looked at her, I was like, hey, you turn 18 on Wednesday, right? And she was like, yeah, or maybe it was Thursday. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, so what about Friday night? We go for dinner, and you let me take you out. And it's actually kind of cute the way this, like, the whole thing played out and everything, whatever. And she said yes. I said, all right, cool, because we ended up knowing each other from back in the days too. Like, we knew mutual friends and stuff, and I'd actually run into her and didn't recognize her. And so my pastors were actually at her restaurant that she was working at a few months later, and I came up. Actually, it's probably almost a year later, and I came up and I was like, hey, I'm actually picking up this waitress or this hostess who works here. We're going to get married. And my pastors were like, wait, what? This is not the last time we talked to you. You were like, hey, I'm gay. I'm out, you know? And,
damn it. Let me.
there you go. Okay. You're good.
Yep.
I got you. Okay. So you're like, technical difficulties, y'all will be all right. So they were like, so this is a shock. Like, now you're coming at us, we're really happy for you and whatever. So they were obviously supportive. They advised marriage counseling, never took them up on it, probably should have. And then we get married, have a kid, get separated, get divorced. And I won't go into any of those details. Don't even ask. For anybody else out there too that might message me and be like, hey, what happened? Don't ask, because I won't tell. But respectfully, we got divorced, and we the chains of communication are still open to this day, although they're not used. We'll put it that way. Aside from that, like, I was in the process of getting divorced, and I moved in with this guy. And at first he was just a roommate. At first he was just kind of like a friend. And now 9 years later, he's helped me raise my kid more than anyone else ever has. And he has been a better, more influential part of my life than any one person has, as far as maturing me, teaching me how to handle money. I mean, he's only like a year and a half, 2 years older than I am. And he's definitely helped. He's had a hard life. And so he had to grow up quick. And so he's been a man, a real man, longer than I have been. So when I slowly built these like soul ties with him, spending this much time with him, going on vacation, moved to Florida together, moved back to Ohio together, like, I watched him tell my kid, like, hey, my mom also doesn't talk to me, when my kid was crying about it. And I didn't have what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm holding him, but he's still crying. I don't have I can feel the empathy all I want, but like, I don't have the wisdom that's going to speak to this situation because I've never been abandoned by my mom.
Yeah.
And whereas my son has been. And so this guy also has been as well. And so it was like, that was one of the moments where I was like, dang, like, he's more of a parent than my kid's own mother is, So you build those relationships, and you become important to each other. And whether or not God's going to send us to hell or not, that's up to God. No one can say that. And you'll have audience that'll say, well, no, I know for a fact you're sinning, you're going to hell. But that is in and of itself a judge not, lest you shall be judged. For with what measure you judge, it shall be measured unto you again, implying duplicitous nature. That's one of those instances where if you think that way about people, if you have that judgmental spirit, you need to pray that leaves you, because that is in and of itself a sin to be the judge on those. Now, you can judge a tree by its fruit. And I hope and pray that the fruit I give out to people is that of a believer first and foremost. And so, it is a struggle. It is every day. I kind of go back. I don't want to say I go back and forth on it as if I'm some teeter-tottering guy who isn't sure of anything, but I am probably going to propose. I am probably going to marry him. I'm pretty certain in that. I guess the thing I go back and forth on is whether or not God is going to overlook it, or there are going to be blessings I miss out on because of it. I do know that. I do know that like there will be, if I was married to a woman, and this sucks to hear as a Christian, you have to acknowledge that there are things that you're not going to like to hear, but you're going to hear. Like I know that I am trading, and especially someone who's bisexual. Like I could find a woman I want to be with, but or that would be acceptable, right? But I'm not choosing that. I am choosing this guy that I've been with for 9 years, and I am acknowledging that there are probably blessings I'm going to miss out on, and I don't think God would be unjust in depriving me of those blessings, because first and foremost, none of us deserve anything that God gives us. We all deserve damnation in hell. I think we all should start at the bottom and just acknowledge that we're all crap, and then any added blessings on top of that, any blessings that God would give us, any benefits that we would reap from this life in general, any joys we have, any happy moments we have, are just but that they are blessings given to us by God's mercy. Mercy is not giving us what we do deserve, which would be damnation, and grace is giving us what we don't deserve, like these blessings. This is how I should clarify that. So like I do believe that God's grace is still prevalent in my life, and I can give example after example, but we'll leave that for the book when I write it, or when someone else writes it, because I don't feel like writing it. But either way, like it is, but it is a struggle though, and it is hard to acknowledge. Like there's like the guys like the gay Republican or whatever. He'll say like, no, it's fine to be gay. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to tell you that it's okay, but I'm also not going to tell you that I can change it, because I begged God. And there we go. After some really hard and emotional moments, despite having begged God to take these things away from me, he never did. And I wanted them gone. And so for whatever purpose, if it fits his purpose, I'll live through it. I'll do the best I can, with what I have in front of me. And, you know, I really, unless you have any specific questions, there's just a lot to it, right?
No, I mean, that's one thing like I've always really respected with you, is that you've like really held on to like a solid Christian foundation, and are very like realistic with where you are, because I've had a few like gay Christians come at me, because like I would go hard against porn or something, or I said like, you can't be a Christian, you can't be into porn, and then there's someone in our sphere that has an OnlyFans like content, and people come swinging from the rafters to defend him, and I'm like, I'm not talking about him. Actually, I don't even talk to him anymore. But I don't think you can be like a Christian, support porn, let alone be a gay Christian, and be like half of your timeline is porn. That's not like, you know, like and that's like one thing that like I've always like I think a journalist on the West Coast, a self-styled journalist on the West Coast, ended up blocking me because I pointed out the in her railing against Christians and her not conforming to their ideals. It's like, well, you know, there's part of the Bible that says go and sin no more. You know, there's there I mean, there is that aspect that, you know, I kind of joke, say like, I don't care if you're a hypocrite, just be an honest hypocrite about it.
I do feel that way too, though. Yeah.
You know, because like the thing is like, yeah, I have things I struggle with. I'm like, you know, for me, honestly, it's like being a combat vet, having like a messed up Pentecostal family. Yeah, I know I can get.
That's really a two-time combat vet at that point, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's like I can get really pissed off, and I can like almost get to like a wrath level, and it's just something I don't can control, because like I like for me it's just easy just to go completely scorched earth and just be like, no, like, you know, you're done with you, like here's the nuke, you know, go. And you know, but that's just part of it, is like everybody has things they struggle with, but trying to say something's not a struggle because you know you think the Bible is this way. It's like, well, see, then you're kind of doing that thing where you're taking theology and you making it fit your desires, because like, you know, you're making the Bible change for you, you're not changing for what the Word of God is. And a lot of times that's like with the LGBT Christians, that's where I have a big issue, is the change of theology, is that you know, intentionally changing something for your comfort.
I'm not gonna, I don't know, I'll do some more research on it, and maybe we'll do a second episode where you and I will dive into, and I'll dive in on the grounds of protecting. Or actually, we should do it the opposite. You should dive into, we should do a friendly debate between two of us where you dive into on protection of homosexuality, and I'll come at it from a point of condemnation from Scripture. and
So,
nature. At that point, we should fight each other's battle here. And I think that would be.
I was gonna say, you're gonna give me the assignment that I give a couple of my ethics classes where you need to debate the counterpoint.
Yeah, the opposite point. Yeah, yeah, that would be interesting. We should do that one day, or at least on a space or something. Have it open to defending
Oh,
the opposite points you hold,
yeah.
or
I mean,
something like that.
honestly, a space doing that, like a hot topic, but you need to come in and argue the opposite of your position.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that'd
We'll
be
call it
I
like
think that'd
that.
be fun to do.
Ooh, we should call it counterpoint.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Counterpoint internal review or something like that would be cool. Yeah, that'd be clever. I definitely I've argued both sides of that. Because I've been the living right, Christian and had friends who were struggling come up to me, and I have tried to walk them out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like the drowning man trying to save others. Like I can't even stay above water myself. How
Yeah,
can I help? It's the remove the plank from your eye before you get the splinter out of your brother's. It's
yeah,
the you know handle your own crap and get your own house in order before you start trying to clean everybody else's, right? So it's very much
yeah.
so that way. And my house is not in order. I won't lie to you. I will say that up until last year, my kid did not know, and he's 10 now. My kid did not know that I had dated the guy I've been with, and he had thought it was a past tense thing. I let him make his assumptions. I just told him that he and I had dated. I didn't go into any more elaboration because Keegan, my son, was getting really, really pissy with some characters on a TV show. He was like complaining about how he doesn't like how gay they are. I was like,
Yeah.
well, okay, I mean, that's fair. I also don't like that, but I think you need to like hold back on the criticisms, buddy, because you know I've dated guys, and he's like, what? It's like so. And when I told him that, it was very much so surface level. I didn't go into any of the details. He doesn't know what any of the stuff entails, and I believe it's my right to protect him and open those doors when I see fit. And then just this past year, I asked him like, "Hey, what do you think about this person?" Because we've been living with him for so long. Like, how do you feel about him? How do you think about him? And he did say he was the one that said, jokingly, for the like last couple months before I told him, he called him the second dad, and just like jokingly at first because he's always like yelling at him or like correcting him and stuff. Well, that's the job of a parent. And I
Yep.
don't let any of my other friends do that. So the fact that like he does that, he kind of was catching on. And I did look at him and say, "Hey, well, I know you might not like this because as a Christian, we're not supposed to do this, but this is where I'm leaning. I want to propose."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Okay, I'm not calling him dad." I was like, "That's fine, dude." And he's like, "And I guess just don't kiss in front of me. That's weird." And I was like, "Yeah, yes, it would be. Yeah, no, I'm good." And so, like, I know that there are guys that want to normalize that, and that's fine. Whatever. That's on their family. I don't believe you should because I think I do think it's a deviation from nature and scripture. So I do think in order to preserve the childhood of an individual, you let them have that childhood free from any kind of like overly grotesque straight or gay
Yeah.
comments. I don't think children should be invited into straight people like taking their little kids to Hooters. I'm sorry, you're in the wrong. You
Yeah.
should not be exposing your child to a half naked woman at 6, 7, 8 years old and then telling them that it's all right to stare. It's good to stare. It's that this is, and like a lot of times dads will do it out of fear that their kid's gay, right? Like, oh shit, I can't have him gay. So I gotta have him stare at these titties so he can, like, come on now. Like
Yeah.
that's not,
That's actually the
that's
same.
not winning.
I use that argument as kind of the stance that I have against like kids being around drag queens. Is that
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Minneapolis. I had gay friends. I've seen drag queens. I've been to Vegas, saw shows, and I basically say like drag is burlesque. I would not take my kids to see a burlesque show. I will not take my kids to
Correct.
see a drag show.
Yeah.
Then I have to
Let
like
the kids do
not all drag
kids.
is like sexual. It's like
Mm,
for me, everything I've seen, there's been something, and I think that just that there's been something is where like the line is crossed, and I think not being honest
mhm.
about that is like where you kind of lost the argument. And I think you hit a very important thing. Is like, I mean, you had the conversation with your son, like he kind of, really like discussed what his comfort level is. I mean, even as a kid, like seeing your parents kiss, you're always like, ew, gross. Like, like even seeing straight parents kiss, it's just something like the way kids are.
For some of us, it's still to this day,
Yeah, it's like stop it.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, and like you bring up a really good point too, and like and that's kind of like where like my falling apart has been, is like where just seeing the way I was treated because I spoke out against like abuse that's happening in the Pentecostal church, and then they basically attacked me and said like, oh well, then if you're speaking out against it, you obviously are gay too. And I'm like, no. And then that's how I became friends with like the closeted students at my Bible college.
Yeah, because I thought you were closeted too. They were like, "Hey, this guy."
No, a lot of them. I mean, I honestly like I dated a girl like all through like 4 years of Bible college. Well, I mean, Bible college, deployed, came back, and then dated again. But
Gotcha.
no, I mean they just saw how much heat I was taking, kind of thing, and they like some of them got like a lot of heat, and then I'd see like some students make just like honestly kind of like horrific statements about how like they want to be the very best person, they want to be the plumb line, the guy, the line that God uses.
Everybody strives to be an Enoch. I'll be closer to his house than I am to mine.
And it's just like and part of me, I'm just saying like you're all just like arrogant, like caricatures, like it's just like, and this one like I care so much, like like he's like, I care so much. It's like, dude, you just went to Abercrombie and Fitch and dropped $250. Like you want to talk about like you helping people, but it was just it's just kind of like seeing the same thing too. And I just kind of like the way I grew up, and then going to like a Pentecostal Bible college, I'm like, yeah, this isn't right. So then I approached a UCC, a United Church of Christ seminary. So I went from extreme right to extreme left.
Yeah. That's a lot of the churches though. And I don't like the Presbyterian churches now and the Lutheran churches. A lot of the Presbyterians for sure. I don't know about all the Lutherans, but some of them in this area, they all have the pride flag as part of their logo now because they're openly accepting of same-sex attracted individuals. And I don't.
I was gonna say the ELCA, the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, just had a schism kind of split to the LCMC, the Lutheran Congregation of Missions for Christ, and a lot of churches would dual fellowshipping, like they would have a LCMC Lutheran pastor, but still have a tie to the ELCA. But the ELCA just recently, in the last year or so, basically like if you have any fellowship with the LCMC, they disfellowship that church. Or like they defrocked pastors because they wouldn't be gay affirming, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely that was always very interesting in watching other churches like the Pentecostal churches and stuff, and the ones that went non-denominational because they were getting kicked out of the Pentecostal subset because they were told, they can't have women pastors or they're whatever, and the church felt that they should be allowed to. That's a sore topic for me. I don't go into that one very often. That would be a debate for another time because I think there's more to it. I definitely don't think women should hold political power and yell at me for saying it, but the Bible calls them the weaker vessel for a reason, and I definitely think that it's the man's job to lead, and I think that men need to real men need to rise up, men that love their spouse like Jesus loves the church, which we're incapable of doing so. For the record, it's an unobtainable task. So for us to have to be held to that standard, and in the previous mention in that verse is that women should obey their husbands. That's a twofold solution to a very, very, very complicated problem. And I do think pastors, for those of our church friends listening, those of our Christian believer friends listening, those guys have probably seen this in their lives. where a worship leader tries to like overtake the pastor in importance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you realize that Satan tried doing the same thing to God, it is literally, we are just a mirror of what has happened and what happened in the spiritual. So I really do see some of that playing out too with like the spouse, the female spouse wanting to overthrow the male spouse in authority. And I do think you're a spineless man if your wife runs the household completely. There's a difference between attacking it like a partnership, but the man gets the final say because the Bible says the man's the head of the household.
Yeah.
But the households I watch, because it's not like that in my household. It's very much so. My dad is the head of the household, and my mom is very much so a very strong believer. And my dad was always raised in church, and she was very, very submissive to her husband, and is still to this day after almost 40 some odd years of marriage now.
Yeah.
And that's impressive because I didn't make it 40 months. I'm not gonna sit here and play, but part of the reason why we got divorced was because I'm a man that believed that the man was the head of the household.
Mm-hmm.
And women in my generation do not feel that way. They do not think that way.
Yeah, I mean that's been one of the most successful attacks against the church, was disrupting the kind of order of masculinity, femininity, like that. Mm-hmm. I'm a woman. Anything you can do, I can do better. That then basically just supplanting other things for that like male female like dynamic in relationships.
And I think a lot of that's done by TV too. If you go back to the 90s, all the men in all the sitcoms were dumb. King of Queens, early 2000s. Everybody Loves Raymond. It was always the husband's making some stupid mistake and the wife has to come in and save the day.
Yeah, the man dumb, woman smart trope. Yeah, that's
absolutely. But that's who pushes that crap, though. That's all I'm saying. Either way.
Yeah.
But the people who push that are the same people who would love to watch our authority be stripped from us. The same type of demonic mentality that wants to change up the way things are in your body, like pushes the trans cult, pushes the I was born in the wrong body crap. Is the same one that would love to overthrow the proper nuclear family. And if we don't get back to that as a nation, if we don't get back to that as a culture, if we don't get back to the nuclear family is the most, and I'm talking black, white, whatever. If we don't get back to, I mean, you look at right after segregation ended, and right into the 70s, 80s, Black America, there were a lot more fathers standing by their families than there are now by percentage points.
Yeah.
And you had people like Ben Carson coming out of that era, who is a Seventh-day Adventist. He's among the Christian faith. My boyfriend is also a Seventh-day Adventist, so I understand a lot about what that church preaches. And there are some disagreements, but a lot of it was biblical reality that we didn't get in the Pentecostal church. So I do respect a lot of it, and corrections on a lot of things I was taught wrong. And we did Bible studies on them. Like we still do Bible studies on them. And he's corrected me on quite a few things, but I've also corrected him on some too. It goes back and forth, but that's what built our relationship, which is like super hypocritical to say. But my gay relationship was built on Jesus. Like, no, it's not. But I'm just saying, like, on biblical revelation and realizing what the truth was. But if you look at the way Black families now, where the fathers are gone and the families are just more incentivized by the system to not have the fathers involved. But then look at divorce rates in the church. That's another major issue. Divorce rates in the church are no different than outside the church. Because we as men, we as Christians, we as men have failed to say, this is right, this is wrong, and I'm drawing the line in the sand, and we're sticking with it.
Yeah.
And we've allowed too much emotional fluidity to take over instead of standing on what we know and being consistent. And consistency is the key to success. I've preached that to my kid from day one, and I'll stand by that. Consistency is 100% the key to success. And that if we as men, as yourself as a Christian man, the head of your household, especially now bringing another child into the world, if you don't raise up and say these are my standards and this is what this household will live by God, this is it.
Yeah.
And I don't care what your youth group leader says. I don't care what the members of the church say unless they can show it to me biblically. Like, I don't care what the people on X say or whatever. Like, this is the standard, and by God, we're living by it. And I don't care if your friends call you weird because you don't have a YouTube account or a TikTok. Like, you're not getting one, and that's it. And it's,
I mean, that's what I say. Like, that's where I'm very lucky because, like, you know, my wife is a nurse and she became a charge nurse. Actually, when we lived up in the Twin Cities, I was able to get a transfer to another charge nurse position. But it's, you know, I've had the opportunity with my jobs to be able to stay at home and work from home, stay at home dad. But at the same time, too, we still have that very much like traditional structure. I mean, as an untenured professor, she makes way more money than me. But also, I'm very lucky that I was able to spend so much time around my kids because there's so many times that fathers aren't there for the first day of school.
Yeah,
they're not there for those important milestones, and the fact that I'm able to do that, I just feel very lucky and just very blessed that my wife took one for the team because she's very passionate about nursing, and she knows that I have a passion for, like, you know, working social services and teaching, and you know, it worked out well, and I'm very blessed with that.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of funny because the smoking gun is the supposed marriage certificate that is let's see, no, it'd be 15 years after we were married that they produced.
So does your husband know about your wife? That's my question. I was just so confused. Didn't know.
I'm just like looking at that. I'm like, you know, this is kind of funny, but we were married 15 years prior.
Yeah, this is a long time coming, dude.
So I'm like, well, that smoking gun is kind of a cap gun, but you know, going back to, you know, your dedicated ADA retard, there's people who are going to believe it, and I'm just like, you know, like I jokingly said on a friend's stream, was like, you know, I know exactly how I sound. I know that I have that tone and cadence because I've been clergy, I've been social services, I've been you know, let's calm down, you know, for much of my life, and I know how I sound, I know my cadence. So say anything you want because I've been called much better. I've been called much worse by far better people. Yeah,
I heard you say that in your other interview, and I started laughing because I always tell my guys at work when they cuss me out and they call me the F slur for gay people and whatnot, and because all my guys at work know, and I make fun of myself too. I'll be like, you know, lowering a log down, and I'm like, sorry guys, normally I'm a little bit more gentle with the wood, you know, or whatever. Like, I always make kind of, you know, whatever jokes, and a lot of them will like say something, you know, pop off, you know, with some like, you know, snarky comment or whatever, and I'll tell them all the time. I'm like, I've been called worse by better. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things too. It's just like people on the internet, sometimes so terminally online, they just realize, like, for me, it's the inconvenience of having to worry about like being doxxed or swatted because there's been threats made.
Yeah.
Like other than that, you have no bearing in my life, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, oh wow, you ratioed a tweet. Whatever will I do? Oh, I'll just go spend time with my family, you know, kind of thing. It's just, you know,
the woman I actually had intercourse with, which you will never ever see.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of one of those, like, the interesting is like dynamics of the thing, and I'm pretty sure you'll get a dedicated hater sooner, like probably by the end of the year. But
yeah, I'm at 1,100 followers at the moment. So we're getting there. I'm at 1,100 followers. None of them are real and verified. Maybe you and like two others, but yeah, we're getting up there in the numbers. Compared to I was excited to hit 200. I was like, oh, this is so cool, you know. All it took was one shirtless pic, and boom. I was like, oh man, okay.
Well, yeah, cool. See, that's where I say that you homocons are lucky because, like, even an older, like moderately out of shape, like guy like me, if I post a shirtless pic, I'd get at least, you know, 2,000 followers. But I'm just not going to do that. So
yeah,
that's where you guys are lucky. What
I did at first, it was just like a workout thing, and I was like, oh, okay, no, I can get a lot of followers by just, okay, it's fine.
Well, see, like, I kind of have like a sarcastic thing that I've responded to people. So like there's another person responded with, it's that retarded guy holding the microphone and it says wood underneath. I think I sent that. I think I texted that to you as a joke, or
You did actually. You might have even commented it on the photo.
yeah, I probably did, and then because like some people like get the joke that I'm joking, or otherwise I'd say like I'm surprised. I thought you look more like a shaved baby seal. Is another one I go for.
Didn't you put one of those insults in my in your fan mail you sent me in your hate letter?
I did put that in there about how like you're
shirtless
look like a baby seal.
God, that was so funny. I remember just dying laughing, and Michael read it at first. A couple friends of mine read it at first. Jared read it. A couple other guys I know, and they were like, "Dude, that's so mean. Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you like? What is this dude's problem?" And I was like, "It's all in love and sarcasm. Like, I don't think you can't feel it, but when you read it as if I was like, imagine you wrote it to me, and all of them are like, okay, yeah, we kind of get it now because that's how I communicate with all my friends." But they weren't expecting some quote unquote rando online, you know what I mean? To be like,
well, I mean, I'll send Nick your hat. So I mean, there's
that's fair. I still have it, and I can't wait to wear it this winter.
But I know, like another friend of mine, we're in a group chat, and like I was just like ripping him apart, and they said, "Oh no, like we're infighting." It's like, no, you don't understand. We're horrible to each other. Just so how much we like each other.
Like, that's literally how I say hello.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we're coming up to an hour here, so as we wrap up, do you want to plug your social media, or I guess the only social media?
Yeah, the only social media I have is Twitter or X. It's OfficialAaronEP. It might be actually OfficialAaronEP now that I think about it. And then it's Aaron Philpot. It's my name. I'm friends with all my local sheriffs, and so you can try and dox me. If you want my address, I'll just send it to you. Save you a step. Sheriffs know me. I'm a small town outside of Ohio, somewhere. I won't, I guess, specify where. But yeah, so come check it out. I got some hot takes on there and some not so popular opinions right now about the whole Charlie Kirk thing. So come take a look and, maybe come with an open mind and learn something or show me something, teach me something I don't know. So, yeah.
Sounds good. All right. And on that note, it'll be linked down below as well. And as usual, I will probably text you tomorrow, something random and stupid. And it'll probably be a meme, and you'll be like, "Oof!" And I'll be worried
about how bad I did on the interview. You'll be like, "Wow, this is what you looked like." It'd be like some baby holding a microphone. You'd be like, "Yeah, that's it."
I wouldn't be that mean. I think I said do something. You responded with "Oof." I'm like, what? Too bad? You're like, "No, it's funny." It's like, okay.
Yeah. Oof. Oh man, that one hurt. Yeah.
Well, I have that joke that I was raised so Pentecostal. I feel guilty about things I'll never do. So it's easy to make me feel guilty.
I will say this is a true Midwestern goodbye. We keep extending the goodbye to be very long. This is true Midwestern interaction here.
Yeah, I know. It's like you have two like Midwesterners, like two glaciers come together, and you like. But on that note, everyone have a good night, and Aaron, thanks for joining me, and I will see everyone later.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.